Okay, today's video, we're going to talk about how your competitors can screw up your campaigns real bad if you're trying to run PPC ads on Google search or Bing search even. Maliciously, your competitors doing it themselves or hiring people to click on your ads, make phone calls to your company, submit form service or product requests through your contact forms. All of the above I've seen personally at our PPC firm happen to our PPC clients. At one time or another, if you will. So with that said, or in select markets, this happens basically all the time. In other markets, it doesn't happen so much. I will go over the type of markets where I've seen this in before. And with that, you can take this for what you will. Of course, knowing the warning signs and also have ways to deal with these specific issues, because what good is knowing about it without something, we can do something about it. I will go over what, basically people are doing to our clients' accounts in certain markets where it's occurring, what you can do about it, and be armed with the information so that if it does happen to you, it doesn't stop you from making money in your space. That said, we'll get right into the content. So I have clients who ask me all the time if their competitors are coming after them for a variety of different reasons. They've pissed people off. They think their website's been hacked. People are coming after them, doing all kinds of crazy, paranoid stuff. But as it comes to actual PPC campaigns, this does actually happen. Why? And specifically when? Well, the more that's at stake, the more likelihood that you're going to have people in your space who's willing to sabotage your business through doing stuff to make your PPC campaigns either not work or look like they don't work. And this does happen in some markets, not so much in others, because you're just not in a market where there's not enough money. For where I've seen this happen the most is where you're talking about national markets where you're selling something nationally. So you're dealing with companies that potentially are making tens of millions or at the very least several $1 million a year off of with that business, and millions of dollars with the PPC campaigns and what they bring in. It also happens in big money local niches as well, like the legal space. As much as you would think lawyers would not do this to other lawyers, they certainly do it. With that, to give you some other examples of where I've seen this personally happen before, I've seen this in the IT space, specifically having to do with security services. You try to go in there, what happens is all of a sudden you get all these phone calls and clicks on the ads that aren't, really necessarily, eating into the budget, making the campaigns not profitable. I've seen this in the legal space, particularly in this space where we're talking about personal injury law, where the case sizes and the money at stake in the personal injury space is huge. That's why if you're in the US watching this video and you're in a tier 1 city or even a tier 2 city, you're going to see advertisements for personal injury on bus stops, on sides of buses, on billboards, everywhere, because there's so much damn money in it. Once you get some momentum, you're buying ads literally everywhere you can get them. And then they farm the leads out to the other people, and then everybody else who takes the leads, or maybe even doesn't take the leads, gets pissed at these companies who advertise everywhere and they can't compete with them. Well, with that money comes, we'll just say, greed and the ability to fuck with their competitors to cement their place as that top company that everybody just knows in your space. It doesn't take that much money to screw with somebody else's PPC campaigns. Certainly not, which I'm going to explain how and why they do it, and therefore why basically anybody can do this. Technically in any market, doesn't matter what you're doing, you could be offering a painting service, and your competitors could easily do this with even a few $100. Hire somebody in a third world country to get this done. And of course, that's not going to knock out you completely, but in the right circumstances with the right setup, it can certainly eliminate a lot of competition for basically very little to no money. Another place where this has happened before, in the car shipping space. There's a lot of money in that space, and of course, a lot of it comes through just through the search engine. So, if you think about it from your perspective, and if you didn't have any morals and ethics or anything like that, you got a good campaign. You're making, $5 million a year, $10 million a year off your Google search ads and the leads it brings in, and you got, your campaign performance goes down. You notice there's a new person there. You can spend another 20% more on your ads, which is another 150 grand a year on your advertising to get the same amount of leads that you had before. Or you could simply spend, $10,000 with, or $5,000 with a person that can just spend all day not just fucking with the new guy, but everybody else that comes in that's new. And specifically, the people that do this do fuck with the new people, and it's for a very specific reason. And therefore, if this happens to you, you should kind of know, and trying to get ads to work for the first time for yourself, that these things do occur. And the reason why I'm making this video is for you new guys that are just going to be starting out, and possibly we're starting out wondering if your competitors might be doing this stuff to you, because they do it to discourage you. And that's the most powerful tool of all of doing the stuff that I'm mentioning, that are going to mention that people do to their competitors to harm their PPC campaigns. It's meant to discourage more than anything else, similar to how terrorism works. If you want to say that, it's meant to discourage more than anything else. It's basically online terrorism, if you want to classify it as such. What people are doing, I've seen people do to PPC campaigns. It's about the equivalent of burning down your competitor's business. So anyway, there's 3 different markets. You can see this could happen in a local context, national context. Generally speaking, though, this happens in service businesses, as I've seen it. Product businesses, I don't see it. Probably or mainly because I don't think it is as effective, because if you have money invested in inventory and you're going to do e-commerce, you're going to have to do Google search. And a little bit of being fucked with isn't going to deter you so much from just stop advertising on Google search, because if you can't get Google search to work, your business is shit already anyway. So you're less likely to give up early. Where on the flip side, where people do fuck with people a lot, and again, it doesn't happen in every market, you got to, first of all, have somebody who's willing to do this, even though anybody can do these methods, of which it's not going to be very effective to fuck with people randomly, because as long as their campaign's profitable, they're not going to stop doing what they're doing. What they're seeking to do is get rid of you. Just outright, flat out get rid of you so that you won't advertise anymore. The less people advertising, the lower the cost per click is going to be in that market, because it's all Google Ads is a bidding system. The more people that are trying to advertise, the higher the price goes. Of course, the more somebody's willing to pay, as somebody comes in that's new, they're going to have to be willing to pay more to get shown over the other person that was there, the so-called incumbents that were there before. So, naturally, the less people you can convince to advertise, the better for you. The better the ROI potential you're going to get from the set amount of search demand at any given time, searching for your products or services on Google, as well as Bing as a side to that. So anyway, with all that said, that's kind of a general idea of what's out there. And I'll say, you shouldn't get super paranoid as well. Just as a side to all this, I only see this happening in about 5 to 10% of markets. So chances are this is not happening to you. You might be a little paranoid. You may be thinking this is happening to you, even though you're getting some bad leads in and all that. But a lot of that comes down to that's always going to happen to some degree. And it's hard to set up ads. It takes, the people that you see, and you're wondering how they can afford to be on top of Google when, it costs, a decent amount of money per click. They got there through ongoing investment into PPC, into the process. They think of PPC like a process, not a light switch or a get-rich-quick scheme. They invested some money into the process. They were like you. They were small at one point. They reinvested. They took that $3,000 a month ad budget on Google. They went to 4 and then 5 and then 8 and then 12 and then 15 and to 30 and to 100. They didn't start out doing $100,000 a month. And on that, for that fact, very rarely does somebody come to our PPC agency saying, I would like to start advertising. I'd like to start with a $50,000 a month budget. That doesn't happen. Granted, I don't work with big like Fortune 500 companies or anything. I usually work with companies, $1 million to $100 million in sales revenue a year, in that general range. But even if you can afford to spend $50,000 a month because you're already doing $50 million a year in sales, they don't start out there. And even if they did want to spend more than that, by the way, I would say until we know what we're doing on $3,000 a month, which is about the average starting point of where we start out with Google search ads, there's no point in throwing a whole shitload of money into PPC until we've got a process that works. You can always scale up the budget later. And for that matter, the reason why you also don't, by the way, do $50,000 a month right away, even if you had the money to spend and it was burning a hole in your pocket, you would actually start out with the $3,000 because also, like what I was touching on before about PPC being a process, and the people that are spending $50,000 to $100,000 a month got there by starting with a little budget and then they reinvested and spent a little bit more and spent a little bit more. As they went through that process of scaling up, they didn't just have one campaign and they went, oh, I got money, let's dial up the campaign a little bit. Okay, we got more money, let's dial up the campaign a little bit. For the most part, this isn't like a Facebook campaign. You got to have more keywords and more ads, and respectively, to get to the next stage, you generally have to add some other processes to put in place to actually get to the next level. Sometimes you could just go in there and take the budget and put it from 100 a day to 125 a day, and that'd be fine. I'm not saying you can't and you won't do that a lot, but the fact that you're going to have the same amount of campaigns and doing the same things on a $3,000 a month as you are on $50,000 a month generally, doesn't apply. We'll just say it doesn't apply. So you set up a campaign, you get it working, you use that money to set up another campaign. That campaign's not expected to work for 3 to 6 months as you're working on it. It eventually does. It spins off so much profit, which you use to set up another campaign, and you keep going. So anyway, that's the process of the PPC millionaires that are running search ads, how they've gotten there, how they do it. Eventually, they get to where they're making so much with their ads, they're probably thinking of ways to make more money, and or they just get pissed off, jealous, whatever, when new people come in that potentially have a better website than them, or they're just being assholes and they just are greedy and they want it all to themselves. They can't think of another way to do another ad. What they can do is figure out a way so that they don't have to worry about any new people coming in and trying to do a better ad and a better landing page than them. Because realistically speaking, as I mentioned many times on this channel before, all you got to do to guarantee you'll make money with PPC, if you're already in a space that's got profitable customers there to get. And if you look on Google, by the way, and there's 4 ads at the top of Google for your key term that represents the main ways that people are searching for your product or service. If there's 4 ads there, basically guaranteed that there's profit to be made from Google search, because there wouldn't be the maximum amount of ads there and people competing against each other if that ad space, over the long term at least, did not make money or had the capability to make money. So anyway, respectively with that, then you get to the point where you're going to be able to make money with your ads. You're going to sometimes want to keep people out. Oh, I caught my train of thought properly here now. If you want to be able to guarantee to make money with Google search, all you got to do is have a better ad with a better click-through rate overall, or series of ads that overall get a better click-through rate than 90% of the people advertising. And the landing page, if you can get a landing page with a better conversion rate, or website you're taking people to with a conversion rate better than 90% of your competition on Google search that's advertising, which there's 4 people that can fit on the top of Google, and then really there's 10 people cycled in and out of those spots. Google's constantly searching for the ad that has the highest click-through rate to push that as much as they can, because they'll make the most money short and long term by doing that for themselves. And push the guy who also has the best landing page, and hopefully they can get, it's like ad plus landing page equals, you got to be better than them. And if so, they'll prefer you, they'll charge you way less in order to encourage you to stay there. And everything is about encouraging new people to step up to the plate and try to beat the people that are already there. Most will fail, 90% will fail, 10% will give the people that are there a run for their money. And then that person that was sitting all tight, high and pretty, collecting their several $1 million a year in profit by having the best ad, best landing page in that space already. Now there's this new guy that's beating them. Now they got to work harder to get on top of them in terms of their ad and their landing page all over again. So if there's constantly new people in, yeah, most people will fail, but it also keeps you on your toes. You're going to have to constantly be working to improve your own stuff, even if you're on top today, because new people can come in and raise the standard. So the reason why I'm saying this and the point of all this is, if you are on top, you do have that best ad, that best landing page, you don't want any new people coming in and outdoing you, particularly if you have like an e-commerce business. You can't just make a new website fast. I mean, if somebody comes out with a better website than you, it's going to take you 3 to 6 months to even respond. And if you've got all your infrastructure built up in your business and PPC is your main source of traffic and sales, you can't take a 30, 40, 50, 60% hit in sales because of your PPC not working like it was supposed to before, because somebody figured out how to make a better website than you, and they're advertising through Google search, and Google starts preferring them, and therefore they start charging you more money per click, which makes the profit go down, and you get less clicks at the same time, which would both happen if a newcomer came in and actually outdid you on the ad and landing page combination that you're graded on as a single figure click-through rate, landing page conversion rate, how much you're going to essentially be charged and therefore will make, and how much of the best traffic that's there you'll get from Google. So at the end of the day, it's just easier for them as a part of, let's just say, a maintenance package, to hire somebody that's all their job is to wait for new people to come in that are advertising. Maybe once a week they'll check or whatever. And as soon as somebody comes in, pound them. Take their legs out right away. If you do that, then you don't have nobody to deal with, even if they had a better website. Let's say their website was, particularly as they have a better website. Oh shit, so they have a 10 times better website than us, or 2 times better website than us. We'll start hammering them with all these fake clicks and leads and all this stuff to confuse them. And then before Google can figure out that they're better and prefer their stuff, which it takes time, that's why no matter how good your campaign is set up, you got to run it for a few months to get it profitable, because Google assumes every person that's new that comes to the plate with something new, it's not going to be as good as the people that are already, they know are, and advertising heavily and preferring to advertise on Google search. 90% of the people aren't as good as the people that they are currently knowing is the best one to promote on Google search for as many searches as they can, and to give them the best rates to encourage them to stay there. So if they can knock you out within the first 90 days, doesn't matter how good of a website you come to the plate with, it won't matter. You won't ever have to worry about all the overhead and all the empire that you've built upon that's rested on the PPC working being jeopardized. So from that perspective, I think they're really damn smart. Even if you had a competitive spirit, it's just much better if nobody can compete against you and even disrupt your $5 million a year you're making from Google search ads in your market by investing 0.1% of your sales into a strong deterrent method that are going to get anybody coming in new who don't know about this stuff that I'm telling you on today's video, to make them think that Google won't work and that they quit before the 90 days is up, before Google can really get wrapped around their head that the new guy is really the one that they should prefer to run and give the best rates to so that they will stick around. So the goal is to get you to leave the platform within the first 90 days before Google's algorithm has enough time to figure out that they're better and prefer their stuff over your stuff. So what happens then? What do they actually do? The things your competitors can do to your campaigns, if you're in that 10% of the market where this commonly happens, and they've got somebody to whack you down immediately as soon as you come in, just like there's certain markets where if you open a business in that market, you'll get hit with a lawsuit right away to deter you. The guy over at Valuetainment, the guy that runs that channel, that's exactly what they did to his insurance company. So this is like the digital equivalent of this, or as it pertains to PPC. It exists. The first thing, if you're in a market like that you can kind of expect, and I would expect all of these, even though there's no guarantee, only one can occur to you, but if you are in a market where somebody's established that it's in good policy to just go after any of the new guys right away to make sure that the market doesn't get more competitive over time and threaten their millions of dollars of profit in a year that they're making off this thing, is spam calls. People can put you on an auto dialer list or pay people to call in with so-called wrong leads to make you think the tracking, or to make the tracking that you have look like it's erroneous with erroneous data. And what I mean by that is, if you're using call tracking, which you should be using that if you sell services 100% of the time, or if you sell products over $100, which indicates that a lot of people are going to have to call before they order, and particularly as if they take orders over the phone, so you can have the most data for your ads to get improved upon, both from what you're doing to improve your ads as well as the ad algorithm to give you more of what is working. So you got this call tracking hooked up though, and so what they'll do is they'll just have it set up. The new guy's there. Okay, there's our mark. Take their phone number, put the phone number on a spam list, which once that you get on a spam list, the marketers will try to contact you. And one way to do this is very clever, is that I've personally seen, for example, they'll put you on a shipping confirmation. There's where you'll get a call about a package has already been delivered, and you'll get a call, and it'll be for a bunch of different packages from a bunch of different payment services. And the smart thing is you would be able to do that, and then you could do a different, type of inquire, let's say, about a new bathroom, and then inquire about, I don't know, penis pills. And then as you type in the form, you put in that company's phone number in the form. And then they get these phone calls saying, hey, I'm just returning your call. Or as it pertains to the package example, you're getting these automated calls that are coming in saying your package is ... It's like, then it really can... they're not looking to literally take out your phones. They're just trying to make it so that your call tracking data, I mean, you could tell clearly through your data which calls are relevant and which are not if you use a call tracking program like CallRail and use the call recording feature. But respectively, you still have to go through the call data. And then the whole point of call tracking is to take your call data, get it imported into your Google Ads account so you can see by keyword, by ad, by time of the day, by day of the week, and so forth, where the calls are coming from specifically so you can refine your ads. And when they have all these BS calls that come in, it can be hard. If you have dynamic phone number insertion, that wouldn't be the case, because if you get on a spam list, it would not show up in your Google Ads account, but it would show up in your call rail, and it would just seem like, if you're trying to judge, a lot of people don't use call tracking, so they judge whether a campaign works as if they're getting more calls. Well, if you get more calls, but it's all these crappy calls, you won't know. And for the most part, if suddenly at the same time as you start advertising, you get all these crappy calls, you're just going to say, oh, well, Google Ads, all it is these crappy calls. So it could be bots that are calling in. It could just be people that are calling in from other companies, which I've seen, because they put your phone number in the contact form on other companies' websites. It could just be that they paid people to call in and say, this is actually what I've seen more of personally. Yeah, I'm just calling. I wanted to make an appointment for a haircut. And then the next call is, hey, I'm calling to order a large pizza, and it's just random bullshit like that. And so, again, to the person who doesn't know any better, that's never advertised on Google before this, they make a ultimate conclusion, which I guess I would if I were in the same shoes as them, as I started getting all these shitty calls at the same time as advertising, it has to be coming from the advertising. Because what's the likelihood I started getting all these shitty calls at the same exact time we started up the Google advertising? Does not make sense. Maybe if you just launched your website and then just started Google Ads, I wouldn't blame it all on the ads. But if I had my website going for a year and then I started Google Ads, and then a week later these calls started coming in, what other conclusion could you draw? So they'll think, if that happens, oh, it's only bad leads that you get from Google Ads. People, they aren't rating the ad. They're just, maniacs calling me and clicking on these ads, and my ads are basically showing up for things that they shouldn't be showing up for. So anyway, that's one major sign that you have a problem, where this has started to happen for you right when you turn on the ads. Of course, if your ads are not set up right, you could really be getting bad calls because of that. The big telltale signal or sign that this is happening to you specifically through some malicious means by a competitor or somebody, presumably a competitor, is if the calls are totally irrelevant. And on top of that, they're random. Because usually if you set up your ads the wrong way, because basically, just so that you know, as a side thing here, people don't read the ads they only read your search ad on Google like half the time. The other half of the time, they just click on the first ad without reading it, or passively they're on autopilot, their brain's on autopilot. They type in locksmiths Jacksonville. They're going to assume Google has figured out for them without having to think that the ad that pops up is a locksmith from Jacksonville. So if you got your targeting set up wrong, or you've got your right keywords, but you've got broad match on, which is a very common mistake, which gets you, if you have locksmith on broad match, it could just be, I got locked out of my business, and then they're calling, and that's not a good example. Better example would be like, let's just say there was a bakery called Lock and Love and Lock, whatever. And so the ad would trigger when somebody was searching for that, and then they're going to call and think it's the bakery. And so that could happen. But generally speaking, most of the calls will be there'll be some rhyme and reason to it. There'll be somewhat, the calls will rhyme. Whereas if they're the person doing this maliciously to you, it seems like, and this doesn't have to be the case, but it seems like to really get to you the most, they do a bunch of random things. It's not just one type of call. Because you might, and it makes sense if you were going to do this to somebody, if it was one type of call, you would blame your PPC person. Hey, why are we getting all those calls from the bakery? Or from bakeries? But if it's random everything, they're just going to think Google Ads doesn't work. So Anyway, that's some basic information there. Again, their goal is to get you within the first 90 days to stop before Google knows that their stuff's better than yours and greatly reduces the amount of customers you're going to get as a result of it and lower the ROI, and to get you to think that the type of traffic that Google provides is shit. So anyway, that's a big one. To go along with that, the second one is spam form leads. So just along with the phones, they will overload your forms. And when I say overload, they won't literally overload it and call you so much. I mean, which they could, by the way. They really wanted to get rid of you. They would just call every 15 minutes, and your sales department and your, the secretary and everything would be overwhelmed with calls. They literally couldn't service legitimate calls. They don't do that. Their goal is to make you think Google Ads just doesn't work. It's not to drain you of resources, because a lot of people would just get more resources. It's to get you brainwashed to think Google Ads doesn't work, so you leave within the first 90 days and you won't come back. So along with that, though, they'll fill out the contact forms on your site. And so you're going back to what I was saying before about the tracking and the calls. They actually will pay people to click through the ad and then call, so your call data does get screwed up. If you're doing dynamic phone number insertion and you want to be able to see which keywords have generated the calls, they'll screw it up by having, they can submit your number other places, but they can physically also pay people. And they can have a network of people to physically actually be able to do this, and generally will need to. They'll have, 50 people that they can pay, and that person will click on the ad and then call and say, hey, I'm looking to get my tires changed. Another guy will say something else, and then your data inside your Google Ads account will be all screwed up. It'll say you got 60 calls, maybe 2 of them were legitimate, 58 weren't, and it muddies up the data so much that you can't know where the 2 legitimate calls came from, so you can't optimize your ads at all, which makes it much more likely that you won't, continue because it's too frustrating, basically. Well, the same thing happens with the contact forms. The people will click on your ad and then go to your form and then type in some bullshit like, hey, I need my light bulb changed, or can you help me? I just broke up with my girlfriend. I've seen all kinds of weird shit in situations where this has happened. And so your conversions, it'll say you got a conversion under this keyword here, and it looks like the keyword's working, but it's not. So you double down on that keyword, or the PPC person doing the PPC optimization doubles down on that keyword. But generally, PPC managers don't look at the lead quality, so then they're doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on certain aspects of the account, which are getting all these spam leads, which totally throws everything out of whack. And then pretty soon, no legitimate leads are coming in because of the false decisions that were being made there. They steered the account clear off into the wrong direction completely. So, and of course, at the same time, the ultimate goal is not to drain resources, but to get the business owner propagandized to be able to think that Google Ads doesn't work. And again, start up the ads. We never had all these contact form fills of random shit. We did Google Ads. Oh, Google Ads doesn't work. Or at the very least, I've got a manager who doesn't know how to set it up correctly. I've yelled at him 3 times. Still happening. We give up. Respectively. So along with the phone calls, you can get manual networks of people that will call that are pre-employed to go after anybody new. It could be they submit, of course, they could have like a bot that will fill it in as well versus, people manually typing in the contact form. Just like with the phone numbers, they can have automated bots that just call. They could submit your number to other websites. They can have people that physically call. It just varies depending on who it is and what market you're in, basically. So that's spam leads. Now, I forgot to mention what to do about the phone calls, but in both of these instances, the spam phone calls, spam form leads, if you use CallRail itself, as per, I believe, more call tracking programs out there will be doing this, but with CallRail, which we use exclusively at our PPC firm to do call tracking, with CallRail, they have an option that's now set up by default that when you call the tracking number, it says press 1 to continue before your call connects. And so obviously if it's a bot at least, this ain't going to help you if it's a manual person, a manual physical network of people calling manually your number, but at least if it's bots, they won't get through that. And it can alleviate at least some of the problem or all of it, depending if it is just bots that are calling you. I normally suggest against using that unless you absolutely have no other choice, because anything that's going to get between you and the consumer is going to hurt your conversion rates. That's universally true with any of your marketing that you're doing, but just like this as well. And so don't use it if you're getting a few spam calls, because anybody who uses advertises online, you will get some. You don't want to use the press 1. If you're getting completely slammed with these calls, and you have basically no choice, and you just there's no way you can optimize your ads at all because there's just way too many of them coming in, and it's just messing up your data inside your account too much, you can try press 1 as a last resort. As per the spam form leads, if you have bots, you can use a type of a CAPTCHA, specifically named reCAPTCHA, which is one that's put out by Google. And that will block bots from being able to fill out your contact form. So CAPTCHAs are the little things where, like, if you fill out a form and then there's a pop-up and it's like, please click on all the boats. And then when you're done, please click on all the light posts. Those annoying things that really piss everybody off and also hurt your amount of people that are going to fill out your contact form as well. But if you have to, you have no other choice, you can use a CAPTCHA. But out of the CAPTCHA options, reCAPTCHA does not have anything for the user to do, and it's going to stop the form spam. I don't know exactly what it works or how it works or what it does exactly, but it does actually work real well. So I would recommend that before using a CAPTCHA, a physical one where it's like you have to answer a question or click on what is in the image. If you're going to use a CAPTCHA, generally, if you can get by with it, you would start with one of those that are like, answer this problem. 3 + 1 = what? Those are the easier ones for people to fill out and won't affect your results too much. The ones where you've got to like see what's in the image and then type that in, that can take 30-40% of your conversions and throw them completely out the window for you, by the way, if you didn't know. So anyway, that's what you can do about the spam form leads. And if they're a network of people that's going to fill the contact form out, you're screwed. And the reason why they have a network of people, by the way, not just one person, so this would have to be a fairly well-financed operation to work, is because Google is going to, part of the way of discouraging you is to eat up your budget. And so if Google's good at noticing people that are clicking on your ads again and again to basically find out that it's click fraud and then give you a credit back to your account if they notice that somebody's clicking on your ad over and over again and it appears to be fraudulent or somebody messing with you or whatever. So if they have one person doing this, at least from the budget side, it's not going to eat into your budget. It will initially, but then you'll see in the billing that you got a credit and it'll say like click fraud. And that's one way to also know if people are messing with you. But if you have a network of different people and each time this happens, then you have 50 different people that can go and click on your ad once and you are paying $20 a click and they do it all kind of within a week. Now you're talking about something that can work. Generally speaking, that's pretty much it. Even if they have one person, they can fill out your form a bunch of times. And yes, they won't bill your account, but it'll make, all your form leads coming in. You might have 50 bad leads for every good lead that comes in, which really pisses people off to the point where they just want to stop running the ads because of that reason alone. So anyway, that's the deal with that. Now, coming down to the last one here, spam clicks. So physically, like I said, as an added bonus, if they can just waste your budget, so they can, if you are, there's going to be legitimate people still searching for what you are trying to advertise on, and you'll get some sales or you get some leads. And if you get all these crappy form fills and phone calls that are totally erroneous, you may say, oh, it's still making money, let's keep going. Or it's making some money and not what I want to make yet, but if we keep going, we can hopefully improve this, which is what you should be thinking, by the way. It's not going to be, you're not going to make a fortune with PPC instantly unless you're in a market where you're selling something that's totally high in demand and there's not a lot of competition, generally speaking. Even if you're the best PPC in the world, it's still going to take a few months to get things going. Google's got to see what you've done. Like I said, you're doing better than your competition that's advertising on those keywords already. And then you also got to look at your data and make some revising, and they've got to use, every website performs differently, and they got to be able to optimize the traffic they're sending you on their end. But anyway, with all that said, you may keep going. If they can, they want to try to drain your budget. So you physically just say, okay, I got 2 leads, but I spent $5,000 getting this. This is obviously not going to work. I'm not going to spend another $5,000 to find out. That's their goal. And that's generally what kills people, right? They're going to try it for, let's say, a month, 30 days. The average person thinks Google Ads is a light switch. They're going to try it for 30 days. They're going to invest $3,000. They turn it on. They got 2 leads. They were expecting 20 leads or needed 20 leads for it to be profitable. And they say, there's no way that I'm going to spend money for the next, however long to get this to work. There's the gap between success and where we're at is too far apart, so I give up. And then the person doing this to you maliciously wins. You're going to be out of it. You got a bad taste in your mouth. It's done. With that said, like I said, Google's going to try to block out, if you're not going to be able to have one person click on your ad a bunch of times and just keep eating into your budget. Google's too smart for that. If they have multiple people that they have in a network clicking on your stuff, that's a different story. And that network can be reserved for each new person that comes in. And it's still hard to do, right? Because you would need a hell of a lot of people to click on your ads a lot of times. And so that's generally not going to be as easy for somebody to do. They can actually, if they were smart, technically, they can go out and get somebody that owns a botnet. And the botnet, through the botnet, which is a hacker that controls a bunch of slave devices, different computers, you go and you download a song, and in the song, there's a hidden file that makes it so that the hacker that had the song, and which had hidden basically software within the song, when you downloaded it, it gave the hacker access to your device to use as a so-called slave device to do whatever the hacker wants when they want it. And then it just sits there dormant, and then they hack 1,000 computers like that, and then they go to somebody who runs the big personal injury law firm in your space that's making $100 million a year in Orlando, being the top one, and anytime they need to knock out a competitor, they can use that botnet to click on that ad 1,000 times. And generally with 1,000 times in that kind of market, that would be all it took. And so there's other ways other than have physical people clicking on the ads. You would have to be in a market that has a big money market to be able to have somebody go to that level, but it is definitely possible. You could rely on Google sniffing out the fake clicks yourself. They can look at the IP addresses. They can look at what's something called the amount of hops, or basically if it took a certain amount of hops between routers on the internet to get to Google servers, then they can kind of devise that even if it's from certain different IP addresses, the hops were the same. Therefore, this is probably fraud. And they've got a bunch of stuff like that to be able to see who's fraudulent and who's not. That's why, generally speaking, as it comes to click fraud software and companies like ClickCease, which is the biggest one in this space, I don't really mention that it's really all that necessary, because Google spent all the resources they can to try to figure out how to sniff out the people doing click fraud and clicking on your ads fraudulently. how is it you're going to beat them? At the same time, kind of Google does benefit a little bit from people fraudulently clicking on those ads. But I would say overall, definitely they are trying to get rid of the click fraud themselves. They would rather get rid of the click fraud and then just charge more per click. And why would they not do that? That's the only thing that makes sense. Because then obviously there's less customer service, people asking why is it that there's these anomalies in the data and all that. Anyway, won't get into that. But anyway, Google does a pretty good job on their own. You generally don't need click fraud software, but in this case that you know that you probably have somebody attacking you, it's just not adding up. You know you should be getting better results. You've hired the best PPC guy in the city. Your results are still horrible, or you're getting these spam leads, or both at the same time. You could try the ClickCease software itself, which is supposed to be dedicated to finding people clicking on your ads and eating up your budget just like this to discourage you from advertising. And by the way, as a side note, this shows you actually the scope of the problem. ClickCease is there to get the number one thing it's there for is to stop people, i.e. your competitors, from clicking on your ads. That's what click fraud is and why it's there. Click fraud for, when you're talking about running ads on the display network or on websites, which you can do through Google Ads, that's something else. That in itself, most of the problem is the website owners where your ads are on, they want to make more money, so they set up their own bots to click on their ads so they get more money from you advertising on those sites through Google. When you're talking about Google search itself, it's all about getting rid of the competitors, people, or whatever they're doing to click on your ads, to eat into your budget, and to discourage you from advertising by hitting you real quick, real strong, and enough at once that you'll just say Google Ads doesn't work. So, therefore, because it's made specifically for that, and you can see that it's a big enough problem that I'd say ClickCease is probably a $10 million a year company that just dedicates themselves to this problem. You can try their software out. What ClickCease does is it lets you see all the IP addresses of people clicking your ads. So if their competitors are doing it from one IP address, they're not doing it at all in that sophisticated of a way. You'll be able to block those people if Google is not doing it already. So you don't have to rely on Google blocking people from the same IP addresses clicking on your ads, because ClickCease will record the IP address of every person who does click on your ads, and you can block the IP address when that happens, or there's rules in there where you can automatically block people that have clicked more than or just twice. As a general note, I don't like also using ClickCease because you could see where the problem where this would exist from the other side. A lot of consumers are going to click on your ad multiple times because they're going to go to your site. 80% of people who go to your site, generally speaking, for something that's not like a broken toilet, aren't going to be ready to buy today. So you got to count on people coming back, and when they come back, they're going to click on an ad a lot of times. And a lot of times they're going to come back 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And the fact the person coming back, each time they come back, the likelihood that they're going to buy is at a higher amount than what they were the previous time. So making it so somebody couldn't come back and find you by the normal way that they know how to find you through that ad is actually neutering a lot of the results you can get from PPC in general doing that. So you could, but at some cases, if you got the competitor going after you, you're going to have to take a hit on the people coming back through your ad to get rid of the spam, and just do something like, if an IP address comes up more than twice, you just block it. Or at the very least, if the IP address comes up more than 5 times, block it, or something like that, which would be safer. But you can do that. Now, the other thing that you can tell if somebody's actually maliciously clicking on your ads a bunch of times, again, normally it's through multiple people or through more sophisticated means to be able to have it work. You can check the bounce rate of the people who are clicking on your ads. This is something also the ClickCease does. It allows you to see the bounce rate of the people. Bounce rate is the amount of people who go to your site and then leave without basically doing anything. And bounce rates are normally high if all they're going to do is go to one page of your website and never to another page. Because as per what it comes to Google Analytics definition of it. ClickCease and their software is good because they measure bounce rate in a different way, so that if you only go to a landing page, they can tell still based upon how long that person's there, which is nice. If through Google Analytics, bounce rates don't look at how long someone's there because they don't know how long somebody's been on the page unless they do something else. So ClickCease does let you do that. They let you classify someone that only went to the site for less than 10 seconds per se as a bounce. That was an unqualified person. And then all the people who and IP addresses that are linked to people who've been to the site for less than 10 seconds, you can eliminate all those IP addresses as well. But the main thing, the reason why I bring bounce rates up is you can see the fluctuations in the amount of people that they're finding to block. And so if you're starting out and you had ClickCease on your site from day one, let's say, if you, or let's say you had a problem, you stopped advertising, you think that if you try it again, there might be this problem again with competitors clicking on your shit. You could set up ClickCease before you started, see how many people ClickCease is blocking the first week until they notice that your ads are there. And then all of a sudden, if you see a huge increase in the amount of people that they're blocking, then you know they probably got somebody clicking on your ads. And of course, you can only block so much of it. ClickCease is only going to be so smart in blocking what they're blocking. It'll help you some, respectively, and that's it. Just keep in mind that it all comes down to the dollars. All this shit that's happening, if you still make money, it's okay. So, the goal is to be able at the end of the day, out of all this, try to be able to measure before and after you started running your ads. Are you making more revenue? And is that an increase in revenue per se offsetting your cost to deliver that product or service and the ad cost? And the tracking itself can be, with tracking by itself, it usually doesn't count all the leads and sales you get through the tracking because the tracking's not perfect. It only, on average, captures half of that stuff. And so I always say on these videos, the real way to tell if you're making money from PPC overall, tracking does a good job of telling you which keyword works better than other keywords and so forth, which ads work better than other ads. But the tracking does a horrible job of showing you how much profit you're making overall, because of how the tracking's it doesn't pick up every single conversion. And if you have somebody attacking you, it's going to, like I said, it can screw up the tracking data. But even if you don't have a competitor problem like this, to know if PPC is working for you or just in general, you should be looking at your last 3 years sales into a spreadsheet, put into a spreadsheet your last 3 years of sales by month, and then show what your sales were leading up to the date which you turned on the ads. And then as you go into the next month, you can see what that July should look like compared to the 3 previous Julys, and see if there was a jump in revenue. A jump in revenue that's more than the jump in revenue that you got the previous months looking at the 3 previous years. So you have all the seasonality worked out of the equation and determining what effect your ads had on your results. And so anyway, with that, you can see if you're making money real well. Now it's not perfect, but it's the best way to see how much money you really are making from it. And if you get all this other shit, these crappy leads, looks like people are fucking with your website, clicking on your ads, all that stuff combined, or parts of it, if you're still making money or not. So, and with that, it also makes it so that if they're screwing up your tracking, like I said, you'll still be able to know, is it still worth it to do it? And as long as you don't get discouraged, and you know that it's working, and you get past it, then they're not going to be able to take you out. Because basically, once you get past the first couple months, they'll probably just give up messing with you. That's not assured, but the worst of it's going to be right away. They hit you hard, knowing that if they put all the resources in hitting you all at once, that's the best way to get rid of you, given that it's going to cost a lot of money to hit you forever a little bit. So it's generally going to be real brief and hard. in terms of how they're attacking you. And anyway, so after all this, if you do the 3 years of the sales tracking and see what you should be, what a lift in revenue would look like, and you can see it's close to making money. And even though people were screwing with you, it'll probably get better. And of course, because you run your ads more and you have more time to optimize your ads, it'll get better. You'll make more money. So as long as you're like, if you need $5,000 a month in sales off your $1,000 a month in ad budget to be profitable after expenses, if you've got $1,500 a month in sales off of $1,000 in ad budget, that already should be enough where you're jumping up and down with joy, because it's easy to be able to triple the performance of your ads after the first month. Real easy. Even if you were to get 20% of your goal, you would be good. If you get 3% of the way to your goal, that's a different story. But you should always expect that your ads are not going to produce nowhere near as what they're going to produce after you've ran your ads for 3 to 6 months, and in a lot of cases still 12 months, and you've put your time and your effort in to optimize those ads. See what times of the day, days of the week, states, income demographics, age demographics, gender demographics that are able to produce the ROI that you need, and to push all your budget there. And Google's algorithm uses your conversion data to be able to help you do that. And the ROI will go up. And you should what you're just planning and should be expecting, the winners expect as they start out, they know this is a process. They know that the results are going to go up, and as long as they're trending in the right direction, I'll eventually hit my ROI number that I need. But anyway, that's everything that I wanted to describe about this stuff today. It wasn't a real definitive way to for you to tell if people are screwing with you, but it's as good as it can get, and I thought it was pretty good, or good enough to bring it up on this particular channel. And basically, it could save you from being discouraged and quitting Google Ads, which could have led to millions of dollars in sales with Google Ads long term for you, if you just basically knew that this might be a short-term thing, and that you have a few different things that you can do physically to minimize the damage and effects of it for yourself, so you can get through the other side of what they're going to basically be doing to you up front to try to knock you out of the game early. If you like this video, I have a ton of other videos on this channel about other PPC money-making strategies. Everything that I try with our clients here that we notice, and things that are working, not working, pitfalls, all that stuff that I see here every day at our agency, I share with you on this channel so that you can learn how to do this stuff for yourself without having to go through all the trouble and hassle and spending all the money that we had to spend here to get this data for ourselves. I'd appreciate it also if you would give this video a like or thumbs up, because it'll help other people who are getting screwed with by their competitors see the information that they should and need to see, be able to have a chance of doing what they're doing with PPC in their market. I'd really appreciate that. Of course, the thumbs up gets the algorithm to promote the video more. I also, by the way, have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to build PPC campaigns the way that are able to basically guarantee the results for our clients. And so if you want to know physically what we're doing to put campaigns together on a more technical level and want to learn how to do that, you can also find information that I've personally shared through my blog there. So with that said, basically, if you have any questions, comments about this topic or similar, or something you would like to ask or share, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person that leaves me a comment on this channel, usually within a couple days' time. And so with that, I'll wrap it up with that. Appreciate your time, and see you on the next one.